Hey everyone, Jamie here again, and this time I want to show you something that's kind of popular here, and that is Tic Tac Toe sets. They were huge in my class this year. I'm going to show you how I made them, and then you can improvise and do it to a way that suits your sense of style or ability. The first thing I'm going to do is roll a really thick slab, and if you look at this, you can see it's pretty thick. It's almost an inch. It's really 3/4 inch thick, and this is a stoneware clay. It's called Sculpture Raku. So I have this right angle, and I'm going to line it up, and I'm cutting the board to be 8 inches. So now I have a perfect square of 8 inches, and I'm not going to leave it exactly like this. I like the base to be a little bit smaller. So let me just smooth this portion out here. I want a smooth surface for when I have it on my surface, whatever surface I put it on. I first saw these sitting outdoors, like next to a fireplace area, and I just thought, oh, that's great, I'm going to do that. So before I flip it and make my changes, I'm going to put my name on it. And then I'm going to take one of these tools that will cut at a 45-degree angle. And I'm just going to hold my finger at one end and drag it towards me. I'm holding my finger because I don't want the clay to stretch. So this gives you a fun shape. Now what I'm going to do here is turn it over and decorate the front. So before I do that, I'm going to flip it onto another board, and I want to put some paper down so that when it shrinks, it can move along with it. So there I have some paper. And the board that the wear boards I've been using lately, this is a backer board. You know, you would use it when you install your showers and whatnot before you put the tile on it. And one side usually has these little rows with, allowances. What I like to use them for is to allow air in. So I use that side down here with the paper on top so that the clay doesn't get the marcations of the lines. But yeah, it allows the air in. So I'm going to take that, flip it over, and now I'm going to be working on the top of the surface. Now for this guy, I'm just going to do it's 8 inches across, and I'm going to eyeball it for my measurements. I'm not going to sit and be... I kind of like the free-form thing, but it's not exactly perfect. The tool that I like to use to make the lines is this one with this rubber tip here. But I've made them before using, skewers or chopstick, the ends of chopsticks, or even the end of a wood tool. That works too. So I'm going to guess my line. I'm going to start at about 3/4 of an inch from the top and about 1/3 of the way from what I can judge through it. Now I've done a lot of these, so if you're not sure, you can measure. So you can see that that's not completely perfect. I'm not too worried though. I think the imperfection is part of its charm. So now I'm going to go back through where I crossed the other line with this tip and just take out the little ridges that I created. So there's my board. It's done. And what I'll do now is I'll take some more paper and I'll place it on top. And I'll put another wear board on top of it. And also the wear board will be with the lines down so that the air can get in. And I'm just going to let that dry as slow as it goes. So it'll probably be a couple weeks and then I'll set it out for firing. The next part is where you can have a lot of fun. And I'm going to show you some different pieces. That I've done. So the original design was to do the X and the O's, and then in the fall time I made acorns and leaves, and then for Halloween skulls and crossbones, and then I also made bones and paws with all the dog lovers out here. So that was really fun. As Valentine's Day is coming up, I'm probably going to do hearts and X's. So I was going to do arrows, but I just decided I would just do hearts instead. Anyway, so I'll show you how I do the X and the O's as the standard one, and then I'll show you how I'm going to do a variation for my hearts. Now when we were first doing the X's, it was really a big pain to cut every single one out. So I came up with a way to do it that's not so painful. And what I have here is another slab of clay of the same stuff I used the board on, and it's rolled out to 1/2 inch. What I'm going to do now is do some markings on it. Now I based this paper of markings on these square cutters that I have. So what I did here is I created a graphic that has 24 squares, and each square is 3/4 inch, and they're spaced 3/4 inch apart. So that gives me the perfect X. So I'm going to put this on here. So I just made a graphic in my in one of my graphics programs, and then I am placing the paper on the clay, and I'm just going over it with my cutter. So I'm not going all the way through, I'm just marking it. This will make 6 X's. You only need 5 for the game. Once you've done that, you can remove the paper and you can see the impressions. So what I did initially is I just went through and I cut out each of the squares. And then after I thought about it some more, I thought, oh, it would just be easier if I just take a square cutter around the X and then cut out the individual pieces with the end of the square cutter. So what I'm going to do here is line these up. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know if you can see that here, but you can, maybe if I put it like this, you can see the markings on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place the cutter on the border, so I have each of the 4 squares fitting inside this big square at each of the corners. And then I'm going to cut into it. So in the end, I know that I did this big production with the paper and the squares, and that's going to give me the markations here, but I'll show you, you could just do this square and then mark on here where you should be cutting. So I'll show you that after I finish these guys. What's nice about doing it this way with the paper and the marks is that I can see exactly where the cutter's got to go. So if I have one here that doesn't have the markings, what I would have to do is, come here and make a marking on my cutter where the line should go to. So I see here, and then I can just line that up on both sides and then cut in. So you can see that when I did that one, I didn't look at this properly for one of the corners, so it's a little bit thicker. It's not as clean as this one. But I think people wouldn't notice that per se. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the X's, and then I'll come back and show you the O's. Okay, the X's are done, and now I'm going to do the O's. And so what I did is I got my set out, and I just looked at what would be close to the size of the X, and I chose this one. And this is about 2 inches and 1/8. Probably could go a little bit bigger, but the next size up for this one was a lot bigger, so I wanted to leave it. So I'm lubricating the O's, and then I'm just pressing them in, turning, and then before I release it, I'm going to press the small one in. And I'm just gauging, eyeballing it for what's the center. So what I'll do to dry them is the same thing that I did for the other pieces. I will put them in between 2 wear boards with some paper. Finally, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the hearts Tic Tac Toes. So these are cookie cutters I got from the manufacturer's Chinese Clay Art, and I got them from Play Planet. And all I'm going to do is cut out some hearts. Now what I'm going to do with each of these guys is I'm just going to soften the edges. And just use my fingers to push them in. And that's all the shaping I'm doing. And I feel like this gives you a better, a pleasant, more pleasant piece. So there you see my little heart. So that's what I'll do with these pieces. I'm just going to use my fingers and go around the edges and push in and then smooth out. There's my cute little pieces for my new Tic Tac Toe for Valentine's Day. And I may do arrows or not. If I do, I will show them on this video at the end. One last thing is the way that I showed you the board. Another option is to just go free form. And that's what I did with this board here. So all I did is I threw a slab and I put it through the roller, and I didn't even cut the edges. I just let them be raw. And then I did the same technique where I just did the scoring through. And then, you know, it's just an irregular board, but I kind of like it. It has personality. The other thing about this board, the way that I finish it is these pieces here, and I'll bring these other guys back, I put them in, I dip them in a black glaze and then I wipe them off. And you can see that there's a little bit of clearance here. And then I fire them on a little clay cookie. And these glazes, I'm really familiar with these glazes, and I know if they'll run or not. And these ones are pretty stable, so I can go very low like this and be fine. Same with the white. This is a very stable glaze, so I dipped it in the white glaze and then I just wiped it off. Now this white is, this is Sculpture Raku clay, and with this glaze it has a little bit of speckling. So you might not have speckling with your glazes, it just depends on your clay body, you know, in combination with your glaze. To finish this off, all I did is, this is the same clay body as you see here. The only difference is that I put an iron oxide stain on both sides, and then I wiped it off so you can see it's darker in the crevices. So that's all I do. And they're really cute board games to have and give away as gifts. And so I encourage you to check it out and have some fun with it. And I'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye. Hi, I'm back, and after I closed out that segment, I realized I was just going to do arrows because I thought it'd be cute. So this is what I came up with. So first things first, I just took this as a diagonal and I went across and just gently tapped in to leave the impression. And then I went underneath it and I carved a square. And I didn't press in too far. I just wanted to try to get into the what I thought was the middle from this arrow coming down. So what I'm going to do here is mark with my needle tool a line from the center of this down. This one's a little bit off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from this line down to the line I just created, and then off of this part. Now, this shape of the arrow is not so straight out, so I'm just going to cut a wedge off of there. So I'm going to take this out, bring it down, cut, and then this one also I'm going to soften the corner. So next, like I did with the hearts, is I'm just going to smooth and get rid of the lines with my fingers. So now I have no lines on it at all. Then I'm going to take the end of the needle tool and at a diagonal I'm just going to go here to make the little feather indentations. So I put 3. And now I have my hearts and arrows for my Tic Tac Toe. So I'm just going to continue on with this. So there's my final product. I didn't plan on making arrows today, but it just, inspiration took me. And it was kind of interesting if you watched how I went through the process, how I started off making them one way, and then midstream I added something. I thought, oh, it would look good to push this in. So I cut out from the other ones that I had started, and then in the end, instead of cutting, all I'm doing is just pressing it with my needle tool to give it a slight indentation. So it's just interesting. As you go along, you can teach yourself different ways of improving it as you go. So anyway, I guess that's ceramics for you in a nutshell, right? You're always improving and switching things up and trying new things. So anyway, those are the hearts and arrows, and I look forward to putting them out on Valentine's Day. Have fun. Talk to you later. Bye.